What's up, everybody? You saw the thumbnail, you saw the title, so I'm sure you guys know what we're about to jump into. First things first, Candace Owens is in serious legal trouble, and legal trouble is going to mean a lot of money for her to pay. Candace Owens is about to find out what happens when conspiracy content stops being just the internet and starts being Exhibit A in court. And so, we're going to go through all of her different legal affairs recently, and that includes some of the Delaware affairs, some of the Tennessee affairs, and then we're also going to touch on the Erica Kirk Tyler Robinson. But on one front, we have a foreign president and his wife who are suing or who are using U.S. defamation law to push back on Candace Owens' Becoming Brigitte series. And then on another, we have a former security chief, Brian Harpole, who's using Tennessee defamation law doctrines to call her out for a government assassination narrative. And also, one of the things we have to touch on in this live stream is this, and this is very important. Tomorrow, the Delaware judge will finally hear the motion to dismiss in the Emmanuel Macron case. Can you believe it? We have waited more than 2 months. I know I've waited. I thought it was going to be heard, back in April, and then it goes to June, and then it was pushed to now July. Well, guess what? Tomorrow, we're finally going to get this. And tonight, on this episode, we're going to treat all of this somewhat like a bar exam hypothetical, and we're going to answer three simple questions. And what are those? Well, the first question is, what legal cases is Candace Owens in right now, and what is each case about? Then we're also going to discuss legally, how strong or weak does Owens look in each case? And then we're also going to discuss what is likely to happen next, especially at the Delaware motion to dismiss hearing and in the early stages of the Tennessee case. So, first things first, before we begin, I want everybody to look down and hit like and subscribe if you've not already liked and subscribed. We got to boost this video and get this thing going, because I know we got some other Candace Owens content creators who, they want to prop her up and support all her theories. And so what you guys got to do is come together, take all of your little individual efforts and channel it to that like button and channel it to the share button and anything else you can. And let's get this thing. Hey, there might be other live streams. Drop the link in the other live streams. Let's go ahead and get this thing going. First, what we need to do, and again, like and subscribe, but let's jump into the factual background of this case and all of the cases, quite frankly, so we can all see what's going on. Well, Candace Owens is now the defendant in multiple serious lawsuits tied directly to her commentary and conspiracy-driven content. In Delaware, French President Emmanuel Macron and First Lady Brigitte Macron, let me put up our graphic for us, they filed a sweeping defamation lawsuit over Owens' Becoming Brigitte campaign. In that series and related posts, Owens told her audience that Brigitte was secretly born male, claimed she is actually her brother, Jean-Michel, using a stolen identity, and accused the couple of identity theft, fraud, incest, and involvement in CIA-style conspiracies against journalists. The Macrons say these allegations are categorically false, globally humiliating, and part of a deliberate smear campaign, and they are seeking substantial damages in Delaware Superior Court. So that's Delaware State Court, not in federal court in Delaware. Let's remember that, Delaware State Court. Owens has responded with a detailed motion to dismiss, arguing that Delaware courts lack proper jurisdiction, branding the case libel tourism, and insisting that if the Macrons were serious, they would have sued in France or Tennessee, where she lives and records. Her brief leans heavily on personal jurisdiction and venue arguments, forum nonconvenience, and statute of limitations defenses. And you can find these videos in some of my previous video listings where I've dived in to the response or motion to dismiss that was filed by Candace Owens, and we go through some of those jurisdictional, venue, forum nonconvenience, and statute of limitations defenses and those arguments. But one of the interesting things is for that statute of limitations defense, it includes an attempt to import France's short defamation limitations period via Delaware's borrowing statute. So you want all those details from a legal standpoint? Go look at that video. After multiple continuances, the Delaware docket now shows a long-delayed hearing on her motion to dismiss and motion to strike, which finally put those defenses in front of a judge. Hey, and thankfully, again, we are going to have the hearing tomorrow. Can you believe it? We're going to actually hear this motion to dismiss. What happens if it's not dismissed? Oh man, I hope everybody runs to this page because I'm the one that said it didn't get dismissed. All these other people, it's BS, it's nothing, they don't know anything. Well, guess what? If it doesn't get dismissed and I'm proven right. I mean, I guess if I'm proven wrong, you can run the tape and that wouldn't look good for me. But if I'm proven right, how many other people were out there saying it? So, maybe a couple. However, we got another thing. In Tennessee, former Charlie Kirk security chief Brian Harpole has filed a federal lawsuit accusing Owens of defamation and civil conspiracy over her coverage of Kirk's September 2025 assassination. Harpole's complaint says Owens built episodes around a story from Mitchell Snow claiming Harpole attended a secret meeting at Fort Huachuca the day before Kirk was shot, implying a government plot to kill Kirk and casting Harpole as being part of it. Even though Harpole's travel records place him in Dallas, and Owens allegedly saw those records before promoting that theory. The complaint alleges that she continued anyway, admitting on X that she had reviewed the flight records, posting an incident report screenshot that appears to have been typed live on screen, and claiming to have travel logs she has never produced. Harpole pleads defamation per se for accusing him of conspiracy to commit murder and professional unfitness, as well as false light, defamation rooted in Snow's statements, and civil conspiracy and aiding and abetting defamation. We'll get into all that. Under Tennessee law, accusations of serious crime and professional incompetence fall into defamation per se categories, and Tennessee courts recognize doctrines of falsity by distortion and defamation by implication that allow plaintiffs to attack misleading overall narratives, even when some individual snippets are literally true. On both cases, Owens is publicly feuding with Charlie Kirk's widow, Erica Kirk, and commenting on Tyler Robinson, the man accused of assassinating Charlie Kirk, in ways critics say help Robinson's defense narrative. That broader orbit raises questions about influencer accountability, free speech, and how far just content can go before courts step in. And so, before we continue, I want everyone out there to channel your energies into that like and subscribe button right now. Let's get this video promoted. Let's get more people watching. I want more things going on in the comments section. It's up to everybody that's watching at home, wherever you are. Let's get these likes up, get the share button going, get the promotions going. We got other Candace content creators out there somewhere, and they're watching other content. Well, guess what? Channel them here. Share this link in those different live streams. But hey, that's what we need. Everybody, hit that like button. Let's get this thing going. So, again, we've already discussed what legal cases is Candace Owens in right now, and what is each case about. So, first things first, what we have to do is let's discuss the Brigitte Macron, and Candace Owens case. This is a case that is currently pending in Delaware State Court. Brigitte Macron is the wife of Emmanuel Macron. Emmanuel Macron is the current, national leader. What is it, a prime minister that they have in France? But he's the national executive leader of the country. And so these are very public national figures. Transitioning to the Harpole case, because we're just going to, identify some of the plaintiffs. Harpole is a private figure. Harpole is not a public figure. Post facto, I guess you could say the Charlie Kirk incident was a little bit of a public event. But at the time, just because you're serving in a public event doesn't mean you cross the threshold into being a public figure. So for purposes of this analysis, I think what we should consider is that Brigitte and Emmanuel Macron are public figures, and that's very important for defamation analysis. We're going to get into that. And then Brian Harpole is a private figure. So, is everybody clear on that? If you have any questions, leave them in the comments because I'm going to go to them and we're going to jump in and see what you guys have to add. So, what are the nature of the claims? We have two cases. Emmanuel Macron in Delaware, that case against Candace Owens. Now we have another case in Tennessee, Brian Harpole v. Candace Owens. What are these cases? What do they share? They have similar claims. The nature of the claims are similar. We have defamation and defamation per se. We have even false light defamation, which is a bit of an advanced type of defamation, interestingly enough. We have civil conspiracy. So, they talk about in this world, he's a conspiracy theorist, she's a conspiracy theorist. Well, hey, we got civil conspiracy. But that type of conspiracy is a little bit different, and we're going to jump into that and what that means. We have aiding and abetting defamation. What is aiding and abetting defamation? Aiding and abetting defamation includes aiding and abetting, which just means helping, and that means you helped defamation. Quickly breaking down some of what these claims are. In the Emmanuel Macron and Brigitte Macron v. Candace Owens case, they have sued for defamation under the theory that accusing them of having committed criminal conduct, such as all of these frauds around the world and maybe even alleged financial wrongdoing, killing other people and things like that for their own political gains. All of that is serious criminal misconduct, and when you're accusing that of national political figures, obviously they're going to push back because allegations get out there, they want to protect their own reputations, and defamation really is for that. It's for protecting the reputation and, not allowing reputational damages. So, what makes this defamation per se and not just defamation? That's a really interesting question. Let me ask you this. Does anybody in the comments know the difference between defamation and defamation per se? Well, defamation per se is really a category of speech that, if stated, it inherently applies, reputation, or it inherently assumes reputational harm. So, for example, if I say Nick Brooks is, a terrible person, and he does all of this stuff, and I just defame myself. You can defame me, right? Somebody else defames me. But it doesn't involve anything like criminal misconduct, no professional misconduct. They didn't accuse me of stealing from people or robbing people on certain dates and very particular. Well, that means it's not going to be just that's going to mean it's going to be defamation. Defamation per se would be if they did accuse me of certain criminal misconduct and they said, oh, Nick Brooks, he stole from, this person on X date at X time via this method. See how specific that is? It's not really just general, but it's very specific. And again, there are certain categories of speech and criminal. If you accuse another of criminal misconduct and it's not true, that could be defamatory per se, because the theory is this: to accuse another of criminal misconduct and a serious crime inherently harms their reputation, whether it's true or not. You can't, or excuse me, not whether it's true or not. Truth is actually a defense. But, it's just inherently, it assumes, reputational harm. So if you got any questions on that, please leave them in the comments. I'll try to get back to them. We have also, allegations of, civil conspiracy. I think actually in the, technically in the Emmanuel Macron case with Candace Owens in Delaware, there's allegations of the business entities working together in order to promote these theories and this playlist and things of that nature. That would, in theory, be a type of conspiracy. You would allege it amongst the business entities and Candace Owens herself, and that they did it. I think with the Brian Harpole one, that's a little bit more of an interesting civil conspiracy case, because in that one we have Brian Harpole who's alleging that Candace Owens, more or less worked with, Mitchell Snow and some other content creators in order to promote these false theories. And when we're dealing with conspiracy, I know we talk about conspiracy theories and what does that really mean? It is kind of difficult sometimes to think about. But a conspiracy is really just an agreement with another person. And so whenever we say civil conspiracy, that just means like a cooperation, an agreement amongst two or more people to, achieve a specific goal. And for Brian Harpole, that specific goal was to, harm his reputation by accusing him of, being involved in, heinous criminal conduct. And quite frankly, that heinous criminal conduct also crosses over into the professional context. And so that's where the professional misconduct implications occur too. And again, criminal conduct and professional conduct are categories of defamation per se. So if you say things that rise to a certain level, certain types of crimes or certain types of professional misconduct, and they're not true, that's going to be defamation per se. So just be very careful about that. But hey, go hire a lawyer if you need to, talk about that more. Aiding and abetting defamation, as we already discussed, aiding and abetting is just a fancy way of saying to help another, right? To aid. Abet is a really old term. I don't even know what that comes down to in the Latin term with abet. Let's see. All right, one of the things too we have to discuss is this. In the Emmanuel Macron, Candace Owens case, what is the grounds for Candace Owens' motion to dismiss? Well, jurisdiction and forum are at the forefront. She says that the court does not have personal jurisdiction over me, an individual. I'm Candace Owens. I'm an individual. I reside in Tennessee. I do not reside in Delaware. Even though my businesses are incorporated in Delaware, it would be unfair and improper to hold me liable in the state of Delaware. And that's what her argument really comes down to in the personal jurisdiction context. Because whenever we're dealing with personal jurisdiction, we always have to evaluate, is it constitutionally fair to hold this individual accountable in this jurisdiction? I mean, there's some other factors that I could dive into. And, if this were the bar exam, quite frankly, I should dive into. But for purposes of here, what we really need to focus on is it fair to hold Candace Owens liable in the state of Delaware, where her businesses are registered? And, I think, I would say, yeah. I mean, I let you guys in on a little insight, right? Well, you know what? Let's save that. We'll go back to we'll be discussing a little bit more of the who's got the stronger case and stuff, but you guys see where I'm going. Forum is this. Forum is also really is Delaware the proper place to hear this case? So similar, it really is analytically very similar to jurisdiction and what that would require. But yeah, forum is just going to be, is the forum proper in Delaware or is the forum proper in Tennessee? Also, we have to discuss let's see, I got some notes here I'm going over. The Middle District of Tennessee, that was the Horowitz case. I'm sure everybody saw that. This Middle District of Tennessee case where Brian Harpole filed his case, that the judges actually had a mass recusal and recused themselves from the case. And so, interesting bit of analysis, with that I've already went over on some of that. Libel tourism. What does libel tourism mean? Libel tourism means a plaintiff is just going around trying to find a court to, hey, I'll file here, I'll file there, I'll file anywhere, something like that. And that's basically what Candace Owens is accusing the Macrons of doing in their case, is engaging in a form of libel tourism. And she says that, I believe, in the motion to dismiss. The forum non-conveniens, the framing is also in Candace Owens' motion to dismiss in the Delaware case. And the forum non-conveniens framing just means this. Just think forum, not convenient, right? There's a more convenient forum. And what she's saying is the more convenient forum is in Tennessee. It's not in Delaware. However, if Candace Owens is actually going to get this case out of the state of Delaware and into Tennessee, it's likely that she's going to have to represent to the court in Delaware that she will properly not raise any procedural defenses such as statute of limitations and stuff like that in the Tennessee court. Because if she does, I think the judge is not going to be inclined to dismiss it. And maybe he'll ask her tomorrow at the oral hearing. You never know. As I understand, the court in Delaware does not release tentatives. And so with that, we don't really know what the judge thinks right now. I don't know if the judge is going to dismiss her motion to dismiss in Delaware. I don't know if the judge is going to grant the motion to dismiss in Delaware. If he does grant it, I'll put it to you like this. If I had to give you guys a percentage on what likelihood I think is the motion granted tomorrow, I would say 20%. I say 1 out of 5 chances Candace Owens gets her motion granted based on these jurisdictional and forum grounds. But She could. However, what's going to happen then? The Macrons are going to have the option to, okay, well, let's refile in Tennessee. Or what could really happen is they, if it, oh my gosh, it just kind of crossed my mind actually while I'm, talking to you guys about it, is like, if this ends up leaving Delaware, like the Macrons may just think, oh my gosh, we're not filing in Tennessee. Just take it home. We're done. And then it'll look like a huge win for Candace Owens. So, this could be a huge procedural event tomorrow. You all need to watch it and follow what the judge decides. And I'm sure, social media will keep you guys informed on some of that stuff. Just going over some of my notes. We also got cross-border defamation context, speech about foreign officials. Then we got some choice of law issues, whether France, U.S., or Tennessee law is going to apply, Delaware is going to apply. But really, it's a very unique case that we're dealing with whenever we have the Emmanuel Macron, Candace Owens case, and also even the Brian Harpole case. But the Macrons are national leaders of a nation, a historical nation, France, very historical nation. And now you have these national leaders coming to the United States to sue an American content creator alleging that she caused them reputational harm. However, guys, I'm a lawyer. All right. What's one thing they teach you? Look at, you see that title behind me? See that? So you got to think both ways. What can Candace Owens say to the Macrons? Candace Owens can just say, hey, I didn't harm your reputation, Emmanuel and Brigitte Macron. You harmed your reputation. You guys are awful politicians. You guys, blah. You guys know what they say on social media. You changed the culture of France, blah, blah, blah. I'm not really bought into all that, but you guys, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. And she would say it too. And she's going to say that if it really does get down to what caused you reputational damages. Guys, one thing I wanted to pull up for you. Let me pull it up on screen for us. Just wanted to quickly go over defamation. So, what is defamation? This is an old spelling too. Defamation is a statement that injures a third party's reputation. The tort of defamation includes both libel, which is written statements, and slander, which are spoken statements. So if anybody ever asks you, what's the difference between libel and slander? Here it is. Libel is written statements, and slander are spoken statements. Well, state common law and statutory law governs defamation actions, and each state varies in their standards for defamation and potential damages. Defamation is a complex area of law, as the lines between stating an opinion versus a fact can be vague, and defamation tests the limits of the First Amendment, freedoms of speech and press. Let's also zero in on this before we take that off. That's a general overview of defamation we have there. Well, let's look at the elements of defamation. And why are the elements in anything so important? As a lawyer, if you're going to bring a case on behalf of a plaintiff, you have to ensure all of the elements are met. And not just, 1 of 5, 2 of 5, 3 of 5, 5 of 5, 3 of 3. All 100% of the elements are met. So when you look close, Brian Harpole, Emmanuel Macron, Brigitte Macron, they all have to ensure that their complaints meet every single element you see here. Let's pull it back up. To prove prima facie defamation, a plaintiff must show 4 things, and it can vary depending on the court, but this is a general overview. 4 things. A false statement purporting to be a fact. 2, publication or communication of that statement to a third person. 3, fault amounting to at least negligence. And 4, damages or some harm caused to the reputation of the person or entity who is the subject of that statement. And so, guys, I think what would be a really good exercise now is to quickly go through what is the false statement alleged in the Emmanuel Macron case versus the Brian Harpole case. Well, the false statement purporting to be a fact in the Emmanuel Macron, Brigitte Macron, Candace Owens case, that was that Brigitte Macron is a woman and that there are allegations of serious, heinous criminal misconduct, such as, actually unaliving people, those YouTube censors. So that's how that element's met. Again, really quickly, I want to add it to the stage for everybody. That's how we get element number 1 met in the Emmanuel Macron case against Candace Owens. However, how are we going to do that in the Brian Harpole case because, Brian Harpole has his own defamation. Well, for Brian Harpole, his false statement purporting to be a fact was Candace Owens alleged factually that he was involved in a conspiracy to, unalive Charlie Kirk on that day that he was assassinated at Utah Valley University. And so that's the false statement purporting to be a fact. And that not only implicates criminal misconduct, it also implicates professional misconduct. And so that's defamation per se too. We've already discussed that, but that's how element number 1 is met in each case. Hey guys, really quickly, I want everybody to pause and channel your energies into that like button, that share button, that subscribe button. Let's get the energy going and get this video out to more people. So take a second, go get a glass of water. You like water? I drink a lot of water. I've been talking so much that I got to sip some water. So as I sip this water, make sure you like this video and share it. And go share it in some chat where there's a bunch of people watching. Tell them they need to be educated, and we're going over the law in this live stream. So what do you guys think about the exhibit so far? Good stuff? All right. Again, like, before I continue, make sure you like. So share, subscribe. And we're back to it. All right, so guys, what did we just do? We just discussed a false statement purporting to be a fact. We discussed how that has occurred in the Emmanuel Macron case, and we've discussed how, well, not occurred, but alleged in the Emmanuel Macron, Candace Owens, Brigitte Macron case in Delaware. We've also discussed that in the Brian Harpole case. So that element is, prima facie met. And prima facie just means facially met. On its face, it's met. Okay, that's just an old Latin term. So, been met on both of its face. So it should survive an early motion to dismiss if it saw it. Okay, let's jump to element 2 so everybody can see it. Number 2 is a publication or communication of that statement to a third person. So again, a publication or communication of that statement to a third person. Well, how did that occur in this scenario? Well, I can tell you how it occurred. In the Emmanuel Macron, Brigitte Macron case with Candace Owens, they were alleged to have published this, or Candace Owens was, on her YouTube page, on her playlist, Becoming Brigitte. You remember that? Everybody remember that? That's the publication or communication of that statement to a third person. Who is the third person? More like third 6 million people, okay? Not just third person, third 6 million people, because she has like 6 million subscribers. And so that's where that element is met in the Emmanuel Macron, Brigitte Macron, Candace Owens case. However, what was the publication or communication of that statement to a third person in the Brian Harpole case? Very similar to the third 6 million people that watch her YouTube page and all the viewers that saw it. That's the third person that received the publication and the communication of the statement purporting to be a fact. That, Brigitte Macron is a woman. That Emmanuel and Brigitte Macron are taking over the world and doing evil all around and committing specific crimes, because that's what that's what she said and alleged to have said. And then, Brian Harpole, similar situation. She alleged him to, she alleged him to have been involved in the criminal conspiracy against his employer that day. So, what else do we got? Oh, let me pull this back up on screen for us. We also need fault amounting to at least negligence. And I'm about to put a caveat on here for you. So everybody zero in real quick. Again, look at this, fault amounting to at least negligence. Guys, this is a very important concept that, I'm telling you, people get through law school and they still don't know how this works. So if you're able to understand the legal distinctions here, you're already ahead of most, I swear, people that are studying for the bar. However, it's this. Whenever you are a defendant and you make certain statements of an individual, right? Even yourself, like Candace Owens making a Brian Harpole versus Emmanuel and Brigitte Macron. What's important is this: if the plaintiff sues, we have to look at the status of the plaintiff. Is the plaintiff a private figure or is the plaintiff a public figure? There's a lot of court law or case law and legal developments, but that's just the very fundamental question is are you a public figure or are you a private figure? If you're a public figure, that standard of fault is different, okay? if you're private, it's just negligence. All you got to do is show duty, breach, causation, damages. If you're a public figure, that's when the actual malice standard comes up. So you have to show everything with all these defamation, elements that you see on screen. You have to show all of this. False statement of fact, purporting to be a fact, publication, a communication of that statement to a third party. However, here's the challenge: is if you're a public figure and you bring a cause of action for defamation against just a person that harmed your reputation, you have to show all those defamation elements, plus that the one who purported to make the statement knew of its falsity or recklessly disregarded the truth, of the statement. That they had some type of, maybe knowledge, or, they should have had knowledge because, I gave you the documents to show that statement was false. Like, that's what crosses the line. So it's much more difficult for plaintiffs to, if you're a public figure, to prove defamation, because, you have to prove actual malice. And actual malice is just the showing that, again, knowledge of fault, the defendant knew the statement was false at the time he or she made it, or recklessly disregarded the truth of that statement at the time he or she made the statement. If you're a public figure, if you're just a private figure, so Candace Owens talks about Brian Harpole, and he's just a private figure, he doesn't have to show, actual malice. So that means he doesn't have to show Candace Owens had actual knowledge of the falsity of the statement, or that, she recklessly disregarded the truth of the statement at the time she said it. That actual malice analysis is gone. Again, all we're going to be focused on is just, did Candace Owens make a false statement of fact, communication of that statement to a third party? Was she negligent in doing so? What do you think? And then damages. And damages are just going to be the reputation of the person. So again, whenever we're dealing with a fault, I just want to throw this back up on stage for element 3, fault amounting to at least negligence. What that means is this, guys, and I want you to take this away from it. Emmanuel Macron, Brigitte Macron, they need to show actual malice. That is the fault requirement for them. So it's above negligence. Not negligence is the lowest. It's above negligence. For Brian Harpole, the fault he has to show is negligence. And again, all I want to do, it's very legally, kind of complex and stuff like that. But all it really means is if you're a public figure, it's very difficult to prove defamation because of that actual malice requirement. And then we got to show damages. What are the reputational damages to each? Emmanuel Macron, the alleged reputational damages, and Brigitte Macron are that, you accused me of criminal misconduct, so reputational damages are presumed. They don't have to bring in all this evidence. Oh, he said I was bad. She said I was bad. I lost contracts. I lost money. They don't have to do any of that. Guys, it's criminal misconduct. If you're accused of crime, it's inherently bad, right? Your reputation is assumed to have been harmed. And so that's the important point, is in both, actually, the Emmanuel Macron and the Brian Harpole case, damages are presumed. So again, we got through a lot of that very well. So I just want to quickly, before I jump on that, guys, hold on, let me take off this banner for us. I'm looking at your comments real quick. Oh guys, sorry. I thought I knew how to use this like super chat feature and stuff. Oh, there's how you. Well, I don't know how this stuff works. I'm still getting used to some of this live stream stuff, guys. So bear with me. Appreciate your guys' patience, and also too, as I've already said, please let's get this thing far and wide. Like and subscribe. Because you know what that does? It makes the difference. If you feel like, voices are being unheard, you know what? I'm going to give you guys a real pitch. The Charlie Kirk's justice for Charlie Kirk and Erica Kirk is on the line. How do we protect justice and ensure that it's administered correctly? We get the truth out there. We don't let stupid theories take over the internet and, destroy everybody's critical thinking skills to the extent that it can poison a jury, and then let a guy like Tyler Robinson get away with all this, stuff. So please make sure you do that. Like and subscribe. Quickly going through it, guys. Yeah, you'll get a lot of comments. Why does Candy claim Tyler is innocent while pointing her fingers at everyone else in the world? Hey man, because getting them clicks is good money. Good money. You see that? That's what you want, that money. That's why you do it. That's why I need you guys to like and subscribe. I need them clicks. Dude, I see these jewels and stuff. I don't know what jewels means. Is Brigitte and Candy going to be in the courtroom tomorrow? Very good question. Highly doubt it. I doubt either of them show up. I bet because they right now have the right to just send their attorneys. Their attorneys will go. Their attorneys will appear. That'll be all that's to it. You know what? Hey, guys, you know what I want to do real quick? We took 2 questions, so let's continue taking questions after we continue with our presentation on this. So, what are we going to discuss now? Legally, how strong or weak does Owens look in each case? What's your thoughts? Do you think she's going to be held liable in any of these cases, or she's going to get away with it? If she gets away with it, will justice be done? Who is Justice? Where's she at? Lady Justice. Okay. So, guys, back to defamation. I'll put it to you like this. I think Emmanuel and Brigitte Macron, because look, I got to give you guys my take on this. Emmanuel and Brigitte Macron have a good case with respect to the criminal allegations that Candace Owens accused them of. You can't go around saying that. You can't say, hey, he committed a crime, she committed a crime, blah, 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 and it's serious crimes. It's not just like, slap someone on the wrist or something. I'm talking, these things are terrible crimes, and you can't be doing that to people. Also, when it comes to Brian Harpole, dude, I'm a lawyer, okay? Imagine if I got accused of such professional misconduct. And then, imagine, though, if I changed my profession and I became a security guard and I owned my security company. I got a good, nice security company. Something terrible happens. And obviously it's bad. You might not have much of a business after that in some sense. But then it goes from, oh, you're accusing me of professional, doing a bad job, to you accuse me of going to a military base to meet with military officials to discuss an assassination plot against the second coming of Abraham Lincoln, Charlie Kirk. Nope. I don't buy it, guys. It's just a bit of a conspiracy theory. And we're not talking about conspiracy in the way of like, oh, conspiracy to, the 2020 election, blah, blah, blah. No, we're not talking conspiracy like that. We're talking conspiracy as in agreement, okay? A civil agreement. Brian Harpole alleges that Candace Owens was in an agreement with Mitchell Snow and some other people to, prop up their own channels on YouTube, grow their support, get that money. You know what I mean? It's all about the money. The Benjamins, I go for them, when you can. But, I don't have 6 million subscribers. So how do we change? And how do I get 6 million subscribers? It won't happen overnight, but it'll contribute if you hit that like button. All right. Defamation per se, we've already discussed that. Again, guys, if you have any interest, one of the things about defamation per se is the categories include a crime. If you accuse somebody of a crime, professional unfitness, so we've already got both of those, and some extreme moral turpitude categories. I know there's some categories such as like accusing a woman of unchastity. That's about 100 years ago they were enforcing that one. But technically, it's still there. So if any of you ladies need a defamation attorney to protect that reputation, check your state law books. Call an attorney in your state. Let's see. Public figure versus private figure status. We've covered this, guys. You guys know public figure, private figure status. We discussed actual malice versus negligence. So we covered that. And I guess, too, just to quickly finish up my thought from earlier on the success of each case, I think, like I said, Emmanuel Macron and them, with respect to the criminal misconduct, I think they got a good case, likely going to settle. I don't see this actually going to a trial.
I just see them, eventually settling out. If it does go to a trial, wow, I hope they broadcast that thing. I'll watch. That'd be so fun. Are you kidding me? Watching an American judge with Emmanuel Macron there in the courtroom and Candace Owens. Could you imagine the fireworks each day? I might pay a fee to watch that. I'd pay like $5 a day. You guys might pay more though. Um, all right, what else do we got? Oh, and then with respect to Brian Harpole has a good case too. I mean, look, it would have been perfectly fine had Candace Owens said, "Hey, Brian, you did a terrible job that day. This was the result, and if that's the result, that's a bad job." But that's not what she said. She accused him of criminal misconduct by, this plot to go to Fort Huachuca with the military for an assassination plot, blah blah blah. That's defamation per se. Can't do that. Uh, Owens' knowledge of the contrary records, her failure to investigate, and continued publication after red flags. Yeah, no, there's allegations. I mean, Emmanuel and Brigitte Macron, they sent all of these letters and communications stating, I'm not a man, I'm a woman. That's, Brigitte Macron said. And then, she ignored it. She was like, nope, you're still a man, and I'm going to put more on it in my page. And that, she got sued for it. So kind of sucks in that sense. We had a failure to investigate. What do we have a failure to investigate? That's a weird note. Well, no, excuse me. Here's where we had the failure to investigate. Did Candace Owens investigate these notes she received or these letters? I'm not so sure. She goes and finds other things and, oh, look at this image. Look at that image. Look at the hair she's got. I'm 95, 99% sure. So I'm not so sure the investigation was done properly. And then we had continued publication after red flags. And so, guys, what do you think? If you want to stop your reputation from being harmed, and then you send, like a warning letter to somebody and they still go on to harm your reputation, should you ever have a right to sue them and maybe even get punitive damages and say, that was extra malicious, that was malicious, you sought to harm me? I would do it if I were advising the plaintiff. We discussed conspiracy and aiding and abetting theories. I think the conspiracy theory with respect to Brian Harpole suing Candace Owens and Mitchell Snow and all them, I am not so sure Mitchell Snow, he could be held liable, but here's the thing. If Brian Harpole ever recovered anything, in a judgment, he would probably, I'd have to check the Tennessee state rules, he'd probably just get all the money from Candace Owens because she'd have all the money to pay the judgment. And then Candace Owens might have to sue Mitchell Snow in order to get contribution for what she paid on Mitchell Snow's part. You know what I mean? That's what's that? Joint and several liability. I think that, yeah, joint and several liability in the tort context. So I suspect that could potentially happen here. How much could each side settle for? I think like in the Brigitte Macron, Emmanuel Macron case with Candace Owens, I think that case could settle out for like $100,000 to $20 million, and I think it could settle maybe for more, but yeah, I just don't see them paying more. I just see them having to make a promise, like settle, pay some money, but also promise to stop talking about us like this. Take that off your page. I could see some type of settlement that involves those, terms. And then with Brian Harpole, it's going to be a much smaller settlement because he's just a private figure. He's not a public figure like the Macrons. And so he might, be able to say like all of his lost income, aggregate that along with his emotional damages as a result of this, and all of that combined, he might, have a claim somewhere between, 100,000 to maybe $3 to $4 million. But I highly doubt he gets up to $3 to $4 million. That would be a high settlement. So my range that I'm giving you involves a low settlement versus a high settlement. There's some likelihood even within that spectrum of where things settle, but it's also going to depend on how facts develop and how evidence develops in each case too. So that's very important to remember. Guys, what is likely to happen next, especially at the Delaware motion to dismiss hearing tomorrow and the early Tennessee stages? And so, again, we've already discussed a little bit of this, so I'm going to try to keep it a little bit short for us on that. But what I think will happen tomorrow is the judge will not grant the dismissal motion filed by Candace Owens. If he does, and I am proven wrong, I think that the Macrons will seriously consider filing in Tennessee. That doesn't necessarily mean they will. The Macrons may just say, hey, let's pack our bags and get out of here. This was already too much. She learned her lesson. She won't say any of that. But that would probably be the wrong conclusion to draw from that type of loss. Because if she wins the motion to dismiss tomorrow, she's going to be on her page talking mad stuff, crazy things, saying she won. She's going to hold up the document. Like, I got the document. I'm free. And it's like, well, not really. It's just going to be filed in Tennessee. But, guys, I'm telling you, I think it's going to not be dismissed. I think it'll continue in Delaware. It could be dismissed later for some different theories and stuff, but tomorrow's motion to dismiss, no, I don't think it's going to be dismissed tomorrow on the jurisdictional and venue grounds that she raised. Also, too, guys, another important thing to point out is in that, Candace Owens' attorneys did not raise any substantive defenses. They did not say things like calling a man a woman calling a woman a man, cannot be recovered for in defamation. That is just something you cannot recover for as a matter of law. I mean, I think probably still a question of fact, but maybe one could decide it as a question of law. So I think there'll be some interesting developments, on each case with that. Personal jurisdiction and venue, well, we discussed a little bit of that. I think it's going to be pretty fair to hold Candace Owens there. I think if anything, you could get a technical, it's not technically fair to bring her there, but it's like, Candace Owens, your husband has like $250 million. You'll be fine. Just go stay at the nicest place in Delaware. They got a lot of nice hotels. Maybe call Joe Biden. Maybe Joe Biden will meet you somewhere, have dinner with you. Hunter Biden did. You call up Hunter Biden and say, hey, Hunter Biden, can I meet with your dad, former President Joe Biden? And former President Joe Biden shows up, and he and Candace Owens are eating dinner together. What do y'all think they're going to talk about at this dinner, if you had to guess? Candace Owens, Joe Biden, sitting across from each other, looking not romantically in each other's eyes. I wouldn't say that, but with sternness and seriousness of presidential value. And then President Trump walks in and says, I think Brigitte Macron is better looking than you, Candace. Y'all saw the tweet or the X post. We discussed a little bit of the borrowing statutes. Another thing I guess that could come up is I guess there's some anti-SLAPP possibilities and how it would interact with defamation and defamation per se claims. Anti-SLAPP, guys, all that is it's a statutory remedy provided by different state legislatures that state, where a defendant is sued really for their, engagement in the public process, public participation, such as, spreading their First Amendment right. If they bring an early anti-SLAPP motion, they can, it's just like a motion to dismiss to get it resolved that way. And then also with the anti-SLAPP, you get attorney's fees. So that's always a good thing about an anti-SLAPP is it's a motion to dismiss with attorney's fees, but it typically implicates like First Amendment rights, so that involve like defamation law, for example, or just ordinary public participation processes such as filing a court document. Because there's sometimes like you'll see these plaintiffs who like they'll file a lawsuit against a defendant that alleges them of misconduct. And then the defendant sues the plaintiff, for defamation for the allegations in the complaint. And it's like, no, it's in the complaint. There's a judicial privilege. You're allowed to write those allegations. I know they might be wrong, but you're allowed to write the allegations. That's just the way it works. So you can't sue them for their judicial privilege. If they said all these allegations outside of it, this judicial document, this little 4-letter or 4-corner complaint, okay, maybe you can get them in slap on that, or excuse me, defamation on that sense, but judicial privilege applies. Then we got damages and remedies. Guys, we've discussed the reputational harm and how each side is assumed to be reputationally harmed as a result of the statements. Macrons are alleged to engage in their criminal misconduct. That presumes reputational harm. And then Brian Harpole is alleged to have engaged in certain, criminal conduct that also crosses over into professional misconduct. And that together is reputationally harmful for him, and how those are per se damages. So, assumed by virtue of the nature of the statements and the conduct, those damages are assumed. Very important. You know that part. And then two, what else I think could happen is this. Do you think that the Macrons will push Candace Owens for a retraction? They'll say, look, Candace, we don't want your money, even though your husband got a lot. And, he's got a lot of money, Maybe the Macrons don't walk away so quick. But if they do, maybe what they do is they say, hey, Candace, could you go do an episode, and it has to be at least 5 minutes long, and you have to state clearly, no, give her a script. And it's just, I, Candace Owens, on the 26th of July in the year of our Lord 2026 at 6:36 p.m., hereby declare that my previous statements made to the Macrons on the subject matter of the gender and sex status of Brigitte Macron was false, and I am sorry. If she did something like that, maybe that'd work. And did I channel a little bit of like Bill Clinton and JFK? A little bit. I could hear the JFK coming out in that. We go not to the moon because it is easy, but because it is hard. I do not make this video because it is easy, because it is hard, and I want to save the money against the Macrons. What do you guys think? Is my JFK impersonation pretty good? Hey, it's a presidential impersonation. All right, so we got that. Injunctive relief. No, because think about it. You can't. I don't think that the Macrons or, Brian Harpole can get injunctive relief, because what's the injunctive relief going to say? Hey, judge, I want you to write an order that tells Candace Owens not to talk about stuff like this. And it's like, the judge is not going to sign any order like that, because it's like, okay, please, Brian, describe for me the conduct you want me to tell Candace Owens not to say. And it's going to be like, well, I don't want her to say negative things about me. Okay, Brian, that's too vague, okay? You got to be more concrete, specific. Maybe tell her don't talk about this case, but it's like, then you kind of deal with First Amendment problems. Like, the court is a part of the state, and then the state's ordering you not to talk about certain subjects. But you have the First Amendment, and that's your constitutional right. Where does the court's interest and the public interest and your First Amendment interest, how do all those meet? Because, guys, the First Amendment's very important. Our founders put that together with some intention, so don't forget it. We make these arguments not because they are easy, but because they are hard. And defending Candace Owens is one of the hardest jobs in the land of the Americas. We know this to be true. Let me go to the comments. So, guys, what I've done so far is I've covered pretty much all this. All right, we've discussed, you know what I guess I could touch on real quick? Hey, this whole Tyler Robinson stuff, she's given the lawyers for their defense team all kinds of material. I mean, I think it's kind of sad, but it is what it is. And ultimately, too, guess what? Those prosecutors, they're going to just have to be sharp as iron. And they better be ready for anything the defense could toss their way. Because you don't know what the defense could end up, saying or doing. But ultimately, I see all these content creators talking about, well, was he on the roof? Was he not on the roof? Was he in the yard? Was he not in the yard? Did he jump off the building? Was that a clone body? And it's like, okay, listen. There will be things that if the prosecution will say, he was on the roof. And then the defense will say, yeah, he was. They're going to just agree. And if they try to dispute, well, they're not going to dispute, because then evidence could come in that shows there was on the roof. And maybe the evidence that comes in that proves he was on the roof is more damning in another context. Maybe it shows even more guilt with respect to a gunshot firing. I don't know. It's hard to say. However, that's the calculus that the defense has to do, where it's like, look, if you're going to dispute certain factual assertions that the prosecution makes, such as he was on the roof, well, the prosecution has the right then to present evidence to resolve that dispute. Oh, you want to dispute he was on the roof? Your Honor, look here. Exhibit A, Exhibit B, Exhibit C. And the defense counsel is going to be like, where's the body cam? Dude, they didn't have body cams 50 years ago. Give me a break, right? Chill. Am I wearing a body cam right now? Do I exist? Guess what, guys? We're going to change the Descartes. I think, therefore I am. I wear body cam, therefore I am. That's going to be the defense posture. So, yeah, guys, very interesting stuff we got going on. Let me go through your comments. Q&A. Let me put a banner up for us. Q&A. 1 second. So if you got a good question about this Candace Owens stuff, please drop it. I want to hear it. And if you guys want me to do any other presidential accents or impersonations, I'm not so sure I can do Trump's very well. Obama's, like, all I got to do is, like, put my hand like this. I don't want to point because pointing's aggressive, so I put my thumb. I point you with my thumb. I talk. Hey, Riri, we're shouting you out, Riri. We love this type of comment. Nick deserves more viewers. How do we get more viewers? You all do your part, and you hit that like and subscribe and share button, because YouTube has an algorithm and you guys control the algorithm. So let's take all of these efforts you have and channel them into these tiny little individual actions, into that like button and that share button. Share it with your neighbor. Share it with, I don't know. Share it with somebody you know down the street. Be like, I haven't talked to you in a while. Look at this lawyer I looked up. He's crazy. He does good JFK impersonations. Going through your comments, guys. Say Candace is the queen of half-truths and innuendo. Hey, she's also the queen of YouTube content, it seems, right now. She gets everybody. What else we got, guys? I know y'all have some interesting stuff. Wasn't the lawsuit with Macron supposed to finally start in July? Well, it is July right now, and the motion to dismiss hearing is tomorrow, and it's been continued twice. So, it could be continued even tomorrow. Who knows? We might wake up in the morning and suddenly the docket says continued. And then we're going to be in the same boat, and I'm going to be giving you guys this presentation probably a month later. But no, it's still going on right now. Yeah, Riri, smash that like button. I agree. Oh, man. It says, Candace is of the elite class. I'll put it to you like this. I kind of agree. When look, hey, marry into money. You know what I mean? Marry into $250 million. You ain't got anything to worry about. I mean, shoot, $250 million. Guys, let me find a client with that type of money saying, Nick, I need you to do my legal stuff. All right, sure, I'll do that. What you know? I'll help you out. Send me to Congress. You know what? If I knew somebody with that type of money, I might actually be like, yo, you could fund my political career. You know that? No, I mean, Candace Owens might not be so elite in her past. I don't know about her past, truthfully. But hey, once that ring's on your finger, sweetheart, and you say I do, and if there's not a maybe a prenup in there that prevents you from certain things, like you're gonna be all right. And there's look, there's no indications that her marriage is unsatisfactory or anything. So let's hope the best in that context for her. We hope that on this channel, the good for people. Oh, how about this? This is a good, interesting question. Thank you for this. MQ Scott asks, or he says, I enjoy your videos. You said on your recent appearance on Lady Luck Club, shout out LLC, that you lean left on some issues. Would you please share on which topics you lean left and any on which you lean right? Thank you in advance. Well, that's a good question. Um, you know, I don't know. I'll just put it to you like this. One thing I've learned about myself, like when I was younger and in like college and stuff, I was pretty, left. And then I got to law school and I went to a really left wing law school. And, I didn't like it all that much. And so I kind of like, had some reactionary thoughts and things like that. And, became a little bit more moderate in my approach. And since then, you know, I find myself typically being more like pointing out hypocrisy sometimes than always pointing out like positive assertions. And that's kind of a negative thing because if you really want to be like a leader in something, it's not always just about like, oh, look what he's doing wrong. It's like, all right, well, anybody can point out what's wrong with something. Like, what are you going to do to make it right? And I don't know. I mean, for me, if it was like left wing, right wing stuff, I think Republicans do a good job sometimes with like their rhetoric, and left wing people do at times as well. But both sides can be just hypocritical. And I mean, I'll just say that very flatly. It's like, think about it. When we had Joe Biden as president, like Joe Biden, guess what? I had a moratorium on my school or my student loans. You know what I mean? And the interest wasn't accrued. And then President Trump becomes president, and suddenly that moratorium didn't last another 6 months. So it's like, that's a pretty, normal issue. I feel like I'm a pretty normal person with that. So that's like, let me put this back on screen. But that's like a normal, pretty left, right wing issue in that sense. So that I guess that's one area. And then also too, it's like, think about it. We got like Joe Biden. They were like, oh, Joe Biden, if you elect Kamala Harris, we're going to go to war with Iran. And it's like, guys, look out the window. Do you guys have you seen the news lately? I don't think Kamala Harris is in the White House, and there's a war going on in Iran. Or is it a military operation? It's a war. It's a military operation. No, it's a war. It's a military operation. Then our head explodes. That's where we are. But I mean, ultimately though, like, what's it? You want to elect politicians, right wing, left wing, who serve the interests of the people, try to find the interests of the people. So that would be probably some of my ways of looking at it. I mean, I know it's kind of general and it lacks some specifics. Because, like, if I had to get specific, I guess, like, I will say that immigration policy, I don't know. I mean, I kind of do think, like, immigration should be more enforced just because, like, I think mass immigration can actually undermine a lot of collective labor. And so like labor unions and things like that can't really organize because they're constantly competing with incoming fresh wage labor ready to do the job for cheaper than what the organized workers want to do. So like that's also like a left wing kind of position, but also it's kind of right wing too. So it's like, which is it, right wing or left wing? You don't really know. Um, and then let's see. But I'm not always like I do think immigrants, offer a lot of like really good stuff actually for the nation too. Everybody's like they're bad, and it's like, dude, you guys realize President Trump's mom was not born in the United States. Okay, she was born outside. It's like I have more ancestry in the United States than the president. I think that's true, and more than President Obama. I am the blood of the nation. There you go. What else we got? No, but good question. If you got any more on that, I would love to hear it. Maybe ask me a more specific policy question, and I could try to give it to you. And then also too, I'll put it to you like this: I do sometimes think like we need to do a good job taking care of more vulnerable folks. Um, you know, but also too, I think a lot of older folks too. You know, they're doing well. I don't know. A lot of my audience is older folks, so I feel like I might isolate them. How long could the judge wait to weeks to release the ruling? Yeah, the judge could release it later if he wants, but not too long after he decides that he's going to issue some type of written decision. Likely after the hearing tomorrow, the parties are going to know the outcome of the motion to dismiss. And I think, again, that the motion to dismiss will be denied because whenever you're doing these types of pleading motion to dismiss, the allegations in the complaint are assumed to be true. And so everything the plaintiff said is assumed to be true. And so that, I mean, if you assume everything that was said by the Macrons is true, such as those criminal allegations, well, you can't dismiss it. The only thing you can do is dismiss it for jurisdiction and venue issues, but like the merits of it, such as that's why she didn't file anything substantive, right? Because maybe it was, frivolous to do so. But yeah, that's some of those reasons. Um, let's not forget Candace Owens promised she wouldn't file motions to dismiss on Macron and Harpole, but she has on both because she wants discovery from both cases. I can't stand her since 2015. Oh, of course. I mean, hey, the discovery is going to be interesting because the scope of discovery is very broad. Okay, you can get any sufficient information that's sufficiently related to the claims or the defenses. Here we have, claims related to defamation. You accuse me of crimes, so Candace Owens can ask anything that can potentially prove, prove her defense, which is truth. So when you have these heinous claims and truth is the defense, well, any evidence to prove the claims or prove the defense, that's in the scope of discovery. And that is very broad, very broad. So I see this opening up a huge can of worms, each side doing a ton to get discovery. And you never know where that could develop. Still going through your comments, guys. I like the simple way he breaks down the Latin terms to sound every day. No, hey, thanks a lot. Let me tell you this. Everybody says, oh, I speak English only. I only speak English. Dude, let me tell you this. You want to speak English better? Go learn Spanish or something. Go learn a Latin language. I would not advocate to just go learn Latin. It's like nobody speaks Latin. You're not going to ever practice with anybody. You can't possibly retain it. I mean, you might be able to communicate now with AI to keep up your Latin conversationally, but nobody speaks it. So it's like there's a lot of words in Spanish, for example, or French. I don't speak French at all, actually. But like, if you get a good vocabulary in like Spanish, your vocabulary in English, you'll start sounding super fancy and sophisticated. So that's a good thing. And I'll give you an example of that. One time I was in law school. It was this guy I went to school with. And I spoke Spanish, I was kind of still learning a little bit. Now I'm fluent. But he was like, oh, I am enamored by this. I am enamored. That means I love this. But I was like, wow, what a fancy way to express I love this. I am enamored by this. And the reason he did that is because like enamorarse is reflexive. As a reflexive, I don't know if that's a proper term, but it's a verb in Spanish. And so like me enamora is like it enamors me. So when he was like, I am enamored, he's really just kind of like speaking Spanish, but it's coming out in English, if you will. And it sounds super fancy because when you use a term like I am enamored versus I love, people be like, wow, he's enamored. He's fancy. So remember that. She prima facie cray. That's heavy Latin. That's historical Latin, the vernacular Latin. Still going through your comments, guys. Hey, thank you for your expertise and knowledge. Of course. Thank you for participating. I appreciate your presence and your compliment. Hey, we got Leo Jagog 6481 says, love Candace. That's good. We love everybody. Peace, love, hope. Peace, love, hope. We'll put up all those fancy words. I might put up some peace and love, hippie stuff. I don't know. I don't see myself doing that. Thank you. And Nick J. Brooks. Hey, thank you very much too, Megan. We got Billy Mandalay says Candace willfully and knowingly disregards truth. Well, I'll put it to you like this: willfully and knowingly. Those are very legally significant terms. Sometimes I thought Candace was reading a script on her computer and added her facial expressions. Yeah, I think a lot of content creators do script. It just kind of speeds up certain mental elements when you script out things. I'll put it to you like this: one of the ways you can tell if a creator is actually sometimes smart or not is, can they think on their feet? Anybody can script stuff out. The real intuition and knowledge comes from, okay, you got a script and then suddenly somebody puts a wrinkle and now you can't go that way and you got to do something else. And now it's almost like playing left-handed, right? I'm a right-handed person. So it's like, if I got to start then doing things left-handed, like that's where, you got to have the ability to improvise, think, on the spot and not be so like rigid. And sometimes that takes a little practice, because like sometimes you feel a lot of pressure. You're like, oh my God, everybody's watching me. And it's like, dude, just chill, think. It's easier too. Like right now, right now it's telling me I got 341 of you in here. So guess what? If 341 of you were sitting in front of me right now, I'd be in like a college auditorium. I'd be like, wow, guys, this is a lot of people. I might actually be a little bit more nervous if I saw all your faces and it wasn't just a computer. What else do we got? It says, I love seeing your personality in your latest videos. Hey, thanks, Jamie, and I appreciate that. I appreciate your comment. It says she needs to be in a padded room. I don't know if I'll agree with that, Katie, but I feel the energy, Katie. You giving off that Sunday end of the weekend energy, them Sunday scaries. Do you remember those evil drama queen women in high school who made stuff up, was jealous of other women, and made up lies, bullied and tormented the weakest people? That's Candace. Well, I don't know if she was bullying anybody, but maybe she did. I don't even know where she's from. I grew up with a cop who knows Brian. Says he's a good guy. All right, well, maybe he is. I don't know if he was. I don't think he was at Fort Huachuca plotting an assassination attempt on anybody. You say that, you get in trouble. It's all defamation law. You know how defamation works. You got to be careful. It says conspiracy theories are based on logical fallacies. They are unserious conversations from unserious people. I think that's a very interesting point. I think you make a good point too. Um, yeah, I think that's interesting. I think sometimes, like, you know, there you have to be smart, and when there's gaps in information, you got to try to build those gaps. But obviously, sometimes when there's gaps in information, people will exploit it with certain theories to try to build connections that really aren't there. And that's, you know, I'm sure we've all been susceptible to that. But you know what we got to do? We got to think against the conspiracy theorists, not because it is easy, but because it is, you say it, hard. I'm still going through your comments. It says this one's from Jason Wimberly. It says, what about all those content creators that spew her garbage on platforms like this? These people are getting monetized. Recirculate their garbage. Isn't there some kind of law? Yeah, I mean, ultimately, like defamation law is the the place where if you're going to harm another's reputation, make public claims. Like YouTube is just a platform to make those claims, right? And previously, 100 years ago, we didn't have YouTube, but if you made false statements of others, and that harms a reputation, you could be sued for that. So this is just a technological development that has somewhat transformed maybe defamation law. And maybe defamation law has not completely caught up to the technology, and the law is still catching up to the technology because, I think sometimes when you have really touchy, sensitive political issues, certain legislators don't want to touch it. And, for judges, that can be difficult because when you're dealing with laws that didn't account for certain technological developments such as YouTube or social media and all these things, it's a challenge to judges because they're trying to take old laws that never had these technological understandings and then apply them now. And that's a huge problem. So that's why legislators need to do a good job being brave. Be brave, say what you think about the law, and find a freaking agreement, dude. Find an agreement. I don't know. Don't just make a video. Leave that to the content creators. We don't need a congressman podcast or a congresswoman podcast. I don't like it. They need to be working. I mean, but if they make one, you know what I mean? Like, it's 1 hour less they could have been working on some type of bill, right? I mean, that's just the truth of the matter. They're like, well, I want to take a break for an hour and make a podcast. What's so wrong with that? Okay, well, who's paying for the podcast production team? Are you getting asked softball questions? Does this count as an election expenditure? Like, there's so many issues fraught with like legislators doing this type of stuff. I'm just like, dude, some media company calls you, ask your team, make sure things are good, make sure you cross your T's, dot your I's, but do your job. Said, you're slandering Candace now. Well, no, I don't think so. And guess what? There would be an anti-slap motion waiting. So take that. Megan asks, "Do you know when the Harpole case is?" No, I do not, Megan. We've got to learn a little bit more about that. If you find out any information, please share below. I'll do my best to find out something. I know I got some good content creators. We got like J Witt LLC. Maybe I'll reach out to them, see what they know. Says, I do hope Harpole doesn't settle and gets a jury. Would love to see Erica appear since she's accused too. Yeah, no, hey, defamation. Oh my God, those are some of the best trials. You guys remember the Johnny Depp, Amber Heard, defamation trial? That's the type of drama we would get, but maybe even more and better. I hope they allow cameras if they do. USO ship said, get your popcorn. I agree. Get your popcorn. Candace's husband has a royal title. Doesn't this give her immunity? Well, royal titles would not get you any type of immunity in American law. So, you walk into court, Your Honor, I cannot be prosecuted for this crime of battery because I am a royal. I am the Queen's Duke of Archbishop Fourth of Windsor. I don't know what they call themselves. Like, if you walked into court and tried to do something like that, the judge would be like, hell no. Denial your dismissal on your royal title grounds. That's funny. But then Candace Owens could become a queen. She's a princess. All right, guys, still going through your comments. What do y'all got? You got, hey Nick, would you ever do a video on your journey to where you are today, like stories from college or law school? Yeah, potentially. I'm not sure how much interest it would get. I'd likely, if I were going to do something like this, maybe do it like in the format of speaking with other, people. Like I enjoy the collaboration with others and having like a conversation and just going back and forth with like another content creator. And I think this type of subject would be, make a lot for that. If somebody, if there were another good content creator to collab with, if you guys have any recommendations on content creators to collab with, please, communicate them to me. And also, hey, maybe communicate my name to those content creators. Maybe they'll give me a call or a email or something. It says, why can't Brigitte just take a DNA test? Okay, well, I've done this in a previous video, but I'll quickly address this now. One, even if she took a DNA test, that doesn't mean you would even believe it. Like you wouldn't, like people that ask that question about a DNA test, they're so adamant and dug into their position that DNA test could come back and, I mean, hell, it could be a pink test. You know what I mean? It could come back with a pink result and flowers on it and all these feminine stuff. And they would still say, nope, I don't believe it. It's false. Retest. Do it again. It's like those people that they always deny election results. You know what I mean? You'll just deny DNA results. And they're like, well, hire somebody independent. Agree on, all right, yeah, I get you could. It's just then, I guess the issue becomes like, if you're a woman that sues, because she's been alleged to have been a man and that's defamatory, do you always have to take a gender test to determine your sex or your gender and a DNA test and stuff? So is that just like, that's now required, right? I don't think so. That's not, we got privacy rights and stuff like that. And, and also too, just one last point, with respect to privacy rights, there's also just better evidence, right? We have other evidence. Like, we have medical records that prove this. Why do you need a DNA test if I can give you the medical records that suffice to prove the fact of sex or gender? You understand? Like, you insisting on a DNA test effectively is ignoring the evidence I've already presented, which is medical evidence. And the fact you want to make a dispute out of this seems like you would rather just make a woman pull up her pants to prove she's a woman out of spite because she's sued to protect her reputation, which would make you a bit of a sexist. But that's neither here nor there. It's maybe never anywhere. But the DNA test is a step too far, and we just have other better evidence. If there was a world where this woman never had medical, documents or something, I can't even think of a world like that, but didn't have medical documents, you know what? Maybe we'll consider that. But until then, you might just have to accept certain pieces of evidence, prove certain facts. Would you believe the documents? Think about it. You sit there and say you would believe a DNA test. Okay, well, do you believe the medical documents if you reviewed them? No, they're false. They don't say what I want them to say. I want them to say that she's a man and she's got she has male parts. Okay, well, just go read what you want, because you clearly want only to prove what you want to believe. We got, hey, Hunter Biden. Hey, she could. Hey, Hunter Biden, give me a call. Let's talk about doing crack. You know what I mean? So that's what Hunter Biden. Hey, Hunter Biden's pretty inspiring, though. I like some of his posts recently. I'm not gonna lie. Like, he's he's had a lot of scrutiny, and I think he gives some good commentary on how to overcome that a lot of people could learn from, quite frankly. So we'll give Hunter Biden a good, thing. And also, too, I will admit to you guys, I actually kind of like President Joe Biden, and I'll give you the reason why. He actually met my grandmother at the University of Delaware, because like I have like I'm like related to the president at the University of Delaware. Interestingly enough, never met her, but my grandmother knows her because she knew her as a child when she was a child. She's like 20 years older than me, maybe. I don't know her age. But President Joe Biden was there, and my grandmother met him. She like fell into him, and Joe Biden was like, "Oh, it's okay, sweetheart," and he caught her. And my grandmother told me that. And I was like, wow, that's a really sweet story to have. So it's a pretty interesting little personal take on how Joe Biden, caught my grandmother. And my grandmother hated Joe Biden. She probably still does. And so it's just kind of funny to think that she met Joe Biden and Joe Biden called her a sweetheart. Was he hitting on my grandma? Was he hitting on her? I doubt it. His wife was there. Joe Biden. Still going through. Exactly. Would Candace believe a DNA test? Highly doubt it. Highly doubt it. No, we'll go back to Jetto Planet. If someone questioned my sex and defamation, that's an easy thing to prove. It's easy money. Why has it been so hard? Yeah, I mean, it's easy to prove. You just got to but there's no scenario where you can just go into court and pull down your pants. It's not the way court works, okay? You got to prove your claims through discovery and things like that and examinations. So the other side would have to get an examination, and things like that. You got to there's like technical like ways to gather evidence and stuff. It's not as simple as just like showing up to the courthouse on a Tuesday. Hey, judge, I need you to see something. Then you go to jail. Still going through your comments, guys. And we got look at Nick, prettier than a picture in that fine casual plaid shirt today. Well, hey, I appreciate that very much, and it's a very nice dog image you got there. I hope that's a good dog you got. And yes, hey, Juju, she's always hitting it with the right advice. Hit that like button, subscribe, and share, and turn on notifications. That is what we want. Hey, appreciate you too, Morgan's Wrath. Morgan's Wrath. Oh, now I'm getting into the JFK stuff. We got JFK was a great president. I believe he was as well. He did his fine job up until the day he went to Dallas. I think it was on the 3rd of December in the year of 1963, after this nation was at war with communism in the world, and he was going to do it all. He's from Boston. My grandmother's from Boston. Oh, I usually have a Southern accent, but I can do a Boston accent when it's needed. You guys think who would win in a presidential race? A guy with a Southern accent or a guy with a Boston accent? I think a guy with a Boston accent would. I think a guy with a Southern accent, they're going to be like, nope, can't do it. Think about it. It's just an accent. But they're going to be like, nope, he's smarter. Boston guy. So if I decide to do politics, I'm going to try to do my Boston accent more. We got Stia says, I know you're a lawyer, but to assume you have more intelligence given to you about something than the actual president is pretty crazy. I don't know exactly what that's referencing, but I'll put it to you like this. I have a brain and I can think. And if any president ever is in disagreement with my brain, I may voice that. So I can disagree with the president. I disagree with the president not because it is easy. Oh, we got Katie says, Nick is so brilliant and funny. If he dropped his Trump derangement syndrome, he'd have 1 million subs in no time. I mean, don't get me wrong. I actually kind of like Trump in some ways. Like, Trump has some good qualities. There's just certain decisions he makes that, like any leader, you'll be like, why are you doing that? Why are you doing that? But other things, I'm like, you know what? I kind of like these things, these qualities, you know? So I'm not always, you know, I don't think I got TDS. I'm laughing at you guys in the comments, laughing at my JFK. I don't know. I mean, I think Candace Owens got a pretty good lawyer with Horowitz now. So watch out. I think she's going to be just fine. I think Horowitz is a good attorney. Will represent her interests. But hey, you know, lawyer's only as good as his client's going to allow him to be sometimes. This is, does Brigitte have to prove that she is biologically a woman to win her case? Yeah, I would say at some level. And it's just like, what evidence would sufficiently prove that claim? Does it require a DNA test? I don't think so. I think you can prove it with other evidence, such as medical documents, admissions, testimony, all kinds of things. To force somebody to do a DNA test and ignore all that other evidence is somewhat cruel and is really, I think, a way of subjecting them to humiliation, court ordered and court sanctioned humiliation. Because you need a court order to get a physical examination ordered, and you have to show good cause. And so I don't think you would actually even show good cause to get the motion granted, because there's other evidence available that you could use to prove sex or gender that does not require physical examination. Oh man, I don't know if I could do Reagan. Reagan was like talking like this. No, I don't even know how to do Reagan. He was in California though. He won L.A. Interestingly enough. He was an actor. All these conservatives, we don't like them Hollywood types. It's like, well, what about Ronald Reagan and President Trump? It's like media savvy. They do a good job. As we got Goth Conservative says, so great to hear a Southern accent. It's getting more and more rare to hear it anymore. Yeah, maybe. I'll say this: my accent, if I hang out with a person long enough, they'll sometimes like start to mimic my accent by accident. Is it likely that Candace's UK citizenship could be revoked? Well, I'm not aware of any grounds for that. I don't think defamation is going to like revoke citizenship. That would be pretty extreme. You talked about the leader and our dear leader in the wrong way. You are banished. You are gone. And we got Rain Nations at 185 watching. We had more than that. I was very proud of you guys tonight. You guys were able to get the content out there. We had some good numbers, so I credit you guys for all coming together and contributing to a good cause. We were able to get our little corner of the internet out there tonight. And sometimes, even if it's just a little bit, we together have a strong message, a resilient one, and one that can hold up even in the face of a mass that is wrong. Says Megan, would you ever run for political office, Nick? Yeah, maybe. I just think like it can be kind of mudslinging stuff in politics, and you kind of need like media training and stuff, and that's fine. But yeah, like it would take a lot emotionally, and you would want to be in a good place in your life. And for me, I love doing the law right now. I love being a lawyer. It's really a good job. I like what I do. So in fact, I'd want to be a lawyer right now more than I'd want to be a politician. Like, sure, you can get all that attention, but it's like being a lawyer, there's just something like intellectually gratifying about it that I don't think I would get if I was just a politician. And also, if you're a politician, like some people are naturally just never going to like you just by virtue of your position, right? Some people, like their worldview is that the systems and the institutions are corrupt. Some people believe that for religious or philosophical reasons. And so once you become the politician, you then take on like that, face of evil that all these people see, even if they liked you before. But it is what it is. Maybe when I'm older. I just want to be like, well, I think the average age of like president, politicians, like what, 70 now? 75? Yeah, see, I answered your question. It says, question, Nick Brooks, do you do interviews? I got canceled and want to do what I used to do on my own. If no, no hard feelings. Yeah, I mean, I definitely do like interviews or collaborations. I think those are fun. That's a really good way to, just communicate openly and people can see a good conversation and just, have their own takeaways. You're all independent minded people and I got to win all of your minds. Can you explain the law on the corruption in TPUSA? They are political, but a charity can't be political. It's not allowed. So what happens there with the law? Thanks. Um, I've done a little bit of research into this, but not really as much. Like I'm not prepared to answer this question right now. I'd have to do more research. But just providing you with a quick overview, yeah, I did see something about charities are supposed to not remain political, and if TPUSA is doing something, like that, hey, make sure they follow the law and do what they're supposed to do in that context. Um, but I don't know any really of the facts or anything like that, so I'm not going to say they're doing this, they're doing that. All I can say is like, I think a lot of these documents are public and stuff, so make sure you check those documents, make sure things are going well. And I see there's content creators that do. Just make sure you're truthful. I said, he went to Rutgers. Cool beans. Of course. Yeah. Hey, Rutgers is a good university. New Jersey. You can see it on the wall back here, too. Do you think government employees should be able to unionize? I've never really thought of that question. Well, I will say the legislature is involved, so I don't know. I'd have to think about that more. Said we need Nick Lore. I'm not sure what Nick Lore is, but I'll see what I can do. Hey, Billy Mandalay, thank you very much. Hit that like button, please. Hey, Karma Justice says, I asked you a law question twice, but no answer. If I didn't already answer it, just go ahead and ask it again. I might have missed it. So, I mean, you got to remember, sometimes I'm going through these things so fast. I like it helps when you guys write like question in all caps or something, just for my eyes. Do you think she will likely lose? It's difficult to say. Cases can always settle, and a settlement, it's usually pretty down the middle, right? There's no sometimes winning or losing. It just feels like a draw. Feels like you won a little, but it also feels like you lost. It says, yeah, Nick, do you think Ma'am Kami can be charged with incitement at some point? Holy crap. I guess it's Mom Donnie. I'm not really sure. I mean, don't get me wrong, Mom Donnie's got some radical ideas and stuff, but it's like, I don't know. I mean, I actually like that he refused to take the raise as a mayor of New York. Apparently, like the New York City legislature or something, city council or something, voted that he gets almost a 20% raise, and he refused that. Now, look, I mean, other people can say, well, he's getting corruption everywhere else, and that's fine. Go ahead and say it. But it's like, President Trump's made like $2.2 billion or something as president. So, I'm not going to sit here and mom commie and say he's politically and financially corrupt when president makes over $2 billion in office. You know what I mean? Like, think about it. Dude, I don't even know. I doubt I ever make $2 billion in my life, and that dude makes it as a term. One way I could become a billionaire though, if I become president, that's for sure. Hey, California needs a politician like you, Nick. Hey, I appreciate it, Megan. Uh, make sure you send a letter to some of the political organizations. We'll see what we can make happen. We'll start with the city of San Diego. Hey, we got Juju. Please be respectful in the chat. Second that. Please be respectful. State what you got to state, but, if it's ugly and not really in any intellectual advancement of anything and it's really just word obscenity, we'll pass. Says Trump keeps throwing around the word communist because he knows that it worked in 1957 and he is not especially creative and he is not especially bright. I agree. I mean, guys, like, he's like, the left wing terror, the communism, left wing terror, Muslim terror, left wing. And it's like, dude, was it left wing and right wing or excuse me, was it left wing and Muslim terrorists on January 6th? No. It was the FBI. uh, Nick, Spencer Pratt and the stolen election. What is your take on it? Yeah, I think LA's got actually a probably subpar mechanism for elections. They have this runoff type system where you have like politician A and politician B, have a runoff in the November. So basically, like, as I understand, Spencer Pratt finished third in this because the two women, Bass and I forget the other woman's name, they got more than him. I mean, I think it's pretty legitimate. You guys got to remember, LA is pretty left wing. Like, it's not really, you know what I mean? A place like Pratt's going to be that popular. I mean, I lived in LA. Like, to say like the election's stolen, it's like, guys, you don't know. I mean, Pratt didn't have a chance in hell of winning. The question was, could he even become second in that primary? And clearly he couldn't. That other woman beat him. So I actually think that's a bit legit. I just think the issue actually is more so in elections. You want like two opposing directions. You want like, the left-wing candidate and the right-wing candidate, not just like the far left candidate and the little slightly less farther left candidate. You know what I mean? Like, that's not the way an election's supposed to work. Election's supposed to be like this direction, that direction. I don't know, but election law is kind of one of those things too. Let me know your thoughts. ¿Hablas español, Juju? Muy interesante. Yo tengo que presentar completamente en español por un episodio. Voy a avisar usted pronto. I'm going to advise you soon. Agree. I'm a Spanish speaker, and yes, I agree with you. Hey, gracias. Yo aprecio el comentario. You got Cloudy says Candace uses a teleprompter. Yeah, a lot of people do. I mean, if you ever watch like nightly news and stuff, and like a lot of editorial people, like even on like NBC News, Fox News, CBS News, ABC News, all the news stations, like usually their media people are reading from a screen and the camera is behind that screen. So as they're looking at the screen they're reading, their eyes are focused on it too. So you're not able to really see them reading. Like it just looks like they're looking at you and talking. There's devices that do that. I've thought about getting one myself just because it presents a little bit better. Like if I were talking to you guys, like if I was talking, look, I'm looking at the camera right now as I talk. Is that weird? If I looked at the camera all the time like this, would you like this? Some people do. Some people advocate for this, but then I can't see your comments. It says Nick, when did you graduate Rutgers? I graduated in 2021 from the law school, but I graduated Tennessee Tech in Tennessee for undergrad. Shout out Cookeville, Tennessee. Hey, Cookeville is a very conservative place. You guys like, oh, Nick's left wing. Guys, I grew up in Tennessee. I was in Cookeville. Cookeville is very conservative. Like I'm somewhat conservative myself. It says your law degree is Rutgers. Yes. I went to the Newark campus. Got Mary Christensen. Are you married? No. Maybe soon. We'll see. But not yet. Defamation is in civil, not criminal law. Yes, it's a civil law concept. There is no defamation in criminal law because that would be sending people to jail for defaming others, and that's not really something we do in the United States, nor have we done that historically. Hey, Juju said, Nick, I really like the side of you. Hey, thanks a lot, Juju. I appreciate it. Sometimes you get to doing this, and you know what I mean? Things come out. Dang, guys, we got a ton of comments coming in. I feel like every time I almost get ahead, there's more. If you were Erica Kirk's lawyer, would you counsel her to sue for defamation? Is it worth it? I mean, you could sue if you want. That's fine. I'm not sure. You're gonna give a lot of, or you're just gonna give a lot of oxygen to the case. But I think she has a right to sue. No, I haven't. Have you been at Paramount Tactical? Gary Milton Scamdens has accused him of getting paid by TPUSA, and then yeah. Well, nope, not getting paid by TPUSA. Even though a lot of people accuse me of that, or they're like, "Oh, how's that 7,000?" Dude, I wish I was getting $7,000 in my bank account. Are you kidding me? That ain't happening. $7,000. People just make up stuff. That's one thing I've learned about doing YouTube is like you won't beat some of these allegations. Some of these allegations, they'll be running deep. Oh, hey, shout out to the J Witt followers. Says you are doing the best analysis on YouTube. Hey, I appreciate it, Jackie. I should let them know. I should tell them all the best analysis is here, not anywhere else. Dang, your intro is fire. I'm late, but going to catch up. Hey, please do. I appreciate your compliment. Say, Nick, what is your area of concentration? I do a lot of civil litigation. Not really criminal litigation, so you won't see me in criminal courts all the time. I've done some criminal law hearings, but it's usually been very simple. No, I do a lot of more civil law stuff, so breach of contract, business disputes, personal injury, everything in that realm. And even constitutional law concepts come up sometimes. So, yeah, I love that stuff. And civil law can intersect with anything. So if you want to be a good civil litigator, you got to be good at learning a lot of different areas of law quickly and, just getting and being able to educate yourself and learn. We are on the right side of history here. Indeed. The right side of history. Let me give a speech. There's the bad side of history and the good side of history, or the left side of history and the right side of history. And on this channel, we are the right side of history. The arc of justice is long, but it bends towards the right side of history that we have. And we are the benders. Are y'all motivated now? It says, I'm in a government job and we unionized, but I'm in Canada. Yeah, I mean, unionization, I guess the reason I was a little hesitant, I've always thought about like workers in the private sector unionizing more so than I have in the public sector. Usually the public sector is, it's more already set in a way. But I mean, and also too, it's like you could just be replaced, I suppose, easier by the government. But yeah, I mean, collective bargaining could go on whether it's in a private or public setting. I just hadn't thought about much of like a collective bargaining in the public setting in the United States. Got LLC here. Hey Nick. Hey LLC. Good to hear from you. I'll get back to you. Oh, we got LLCs. Subscribe to her page here on my channel. As you can see, go to her page. She's a good Candace commentator. LLC asked, do you think the Candace hearing will be virtual? I'm trying to find the Zoom link for the courts. It's possible you could find that link, so continue to look for that link. I think you could come across it. And yeah, most court hearings now are virtual, but I don't work in Delaware, so I can't say for sure what Delaware is going to do tomorrow. It says, I'll vote for you, but the elections are rigged. Well, what to do? What to do? You know what? I still think I can go out and win some votes. What do you think? I'm going to go speaking to the abuelitas in Spanish, and I'm going to win that vote. Then I'm going to go speaking here in my southern accent. I'm going to win that vote. I got it, baby. What else we got? Peter asks, what is your favorite domain in law? I say civil litigation. I love civil litigation. Motions, pleadings, drafting. I like appellate work too, like when you're doing appeals. Like that stuff's fun because there's a lot of consequences in doing it, and it's very substantive work. And also, too, it's very important for people. Yeah, Riri said, thanks for the live, Nick. It's been extremely informative. I look forward to hopefully a breakdown of tomorrow's outcome. Yeah, we'll see. Um, hey, if it's granted, I won't, I won't look that good. But if it's denied, hey, we might come on live and do a little dance about how right we were. But if it was granted, we might stay with our tails between our legs, right? But that's the thing in civil litigation. There's no guarantees. I'm not permit. Even though when I like sometimes guys, I've wrote motions or opposed motions, and I felt strongly about them. But just because you feel strongly, that doesn't create a guarantee. You know, it's like football. Still got to throw it. Still got to catch it. Some things look simple and easy, and that it should go one way, and then some surprise happens. So that's why you can't guarantee. Bonnie says the homeless people said on camera they were being paid to vote and given false names to sign. That's on camera. How do you say it was not stolen? You saying that is illegal? All right, well, those same homeless people then say a bunch of nonsense after that. Does that mean the nonsense they say after or before is more true than it was? Or just because it's the election, it means it's real? Or do you want to believe it's real? Would you believe the homeless person if he was telling you about something in his life story before that moment, or do you just believe it when it's conveniently about elections? Ask yourself. It says Rutgers has a Jesuit controlled philosophy department, correct? No, I mean, I don't think so. It's a public university, so like uh you're supposed to like not be controlled by like a religious doctrine, I suppose, at Rutgers. I don't know, that's kind of interesting. It says I have family in Cookeville, Tennessee. Hey, shout out Cookeville and a Howard. Maybe I know some of the family. You never know. But I'm very familiar with Tennessee or Cookeville, Tennessee. I really liked Cookeville a lot. I miss it actually in a lot of ways. It says, will Trump run for a third term for president, or was it a joke? All right, guys. If Trump can run for a third term, maybe I should run for president under the age of 35. What do you say? Think about it. Both of them are unconstitutional, so I mean, why not? You know what I mean? If we're going to do one unconstitutional, let's do it all the way through. You know what I mean? Let's just do it. I, Nicholas Brooks. Now, I don't want to declare it yet, guys. I don't want to declare it yet. But if we're talking third term, I might have to. Under the age of 35. So, would you guys vote for a candidate under the age of 35? You got Buck 5B Outdoors says, love your legal analysis. Hey, thank you very much. Appreciate your coming by to participate. Oh, we got KLM says Southern accent is sexy. Hey, California women think it too, thankfully. It's always one thing about a Southern accent, but it does make you stand out. I like it. People, they want to say bad things about it, but if they want to assume something about me because of my accent, that's on them. I'm probably smarter than them anyway. And we got Greg Ott said, Nick for president. Hey, Greg, we stand in solidarity, brother. We stand in solidarity for candidates running under the age of 35. You know what? Out of respect for the Constitution, I will respectfully decline to run before the age of 35 as our wonderful founders intended. But after the age of 35, we'll see. Hopefully things ain't burned down by then. And we got a country in 5-6 years. All right. Well, hey, everybody, can you believe it? I finally got through all the comments. What a wonderful, crowd that we had tonight. I'm very thankful for you all that came. We had a fantastic turnout. And hey, what did we learn tonight? We learned that Candace Owens is in serious legal trouble. Okay? You never know how much legal trouble Candace Owens could walk herself into. Because when you have a platform with 6 million subscribers and every one of those people could be considered third parties for purposes of defamation law, that is going to create a lot of potential legal liability. And I'm sure Candace Owens' lawyers is making a ton of money right now, okay? Making a lot of money doing the defense work. I would love to be an attorney and I'd have a client like Candace who has a lot of money and is going to pay all those legal bills for me, all right? That's what we want. But what did you think? I want to know your thoughts. Is Candace Owens in serious legal trouble? If I'm right, and that motion is not granted tomorrow, are you coming back to watch this show again? So, thank you very much for coming out. Hey, like, subscribe. I need those likes and subscribes. And also, leave a comment. Tell me what you think. Share this video with somebody that would find it interesting. Hey, and until next time, everybody, have a wonderful rest of your evening.